How do you get people to become aware and conscious and care about sustainability? I've noticed that a lot of people don't seem to care at all.
Not to be cliche, but the way that we're going now is not suited for long-term survival in any way.
How do you get students, how do you get kids to really care about it? That's what I'd like to know.
When I think of real change, I think of people connecting to the earth.
Many of the PCC campuses have learning gardens.
More than a community garden, it's about people coming out and learning, and that has many facets to it.
Well, the garden itself leads itself to interdisciplinary studies through biology and science and chemistry, sociology, economics. Like, there are all of these pieces that are brought together.
Also an appreciation for plants, for space, being able to be contemplative.
So I was volunteering in the learning garden, and I got really close with Peter and the whole idea of just gardening. And then he told me about the project, and I thought it was a great idea.
So the project is community building, and by that we mean the community is going to build this oven, and then by having an oven out there, we're going to have activities that help build community.
One of the components that works very well with the learning garden is tying that into how the garden produce actually connects to the food that we eat. A very tangible way to do that is by actually taking produce from the garden and preparing it for a meal on site. And having a wood-fired oven or some sort of cooking facility allows us to do that.
So food, we use it every day, all day long. Things like pesticides and toxins and chemicals and industrial waste are absolutely terrible for the earth. Human beings, animals, plants, everyone.
Thinking about how, as a culture, do we produce food and how do we value food, and the science and technology behind that as well.
Many kids, they go to the store and things come in plastic wrappers. They don't know where the food is grown or what the plants look like. How is that part of a garden? Well, it's a learning environment. You both learn how the oven was built and the materials.
Using very low impact building techniques to relate those to low impact food production techniques.
As well as enjoying friends and activities and growing in so many different ways.
We're a people that I think one of the very first building materials that we ever used certainly has got to be earth. And it's maybe even in our genes, so that when we get there with our hands and our feet in the earth, that things are clicking in our brains and our bodies and our genes that it just doesn't happen when you have a circular saw in one hand and a hammer in the other. Those aren't working.
Anyone can get their hands dirty, anyone can, slab on some cob and build it and make it bigger and stronger.
Families involved, the kids are playing in the sand pile. Anybody can be involved. It's not so technical or strenuous. You just slow down, you carry smaller loads, everybody can do it.
That's a great way to build something useful that isn't toxic to the planet. That's an ancient knowledge and uses the planet's resources in a great way.
And tapping back into that knowledge and again, that wisdom that people have on building community, supporting community, being part of that natural community.
The connection that we had many, many, many years ago, and that ensured our survival.
Once I became aware of just the toxins I'm releasing into the environment, I began to care more about sustainable living.
When we talk about sustainability, is looking at the money path and who's getting the money and where's the money sort of traveling.
Materials and resources and labor, again, is trying to come from our local community. So we recruit volunteers from PCC, from our local community interested in using natural building materials.
Everyone has different skill sets, and so if you can localize the skill sets, then you kind of get back to the roots of community. I think that's really important.
I find that, as a builder, it means it's more sort of work on my end, but I end up having these sort of great sort of relationships and contacts in the community where I'm actually, I know the farmer who grows the straw that I use in the buildings that I build.
The oven itself is recycled cement, brick from the neighborhood, the cob, some of it comes from the clay material comes from the garden, some from local areas.
We can basically, by growing food and working hard and using local materials, we can build on an extremely regional, extremely low impact level.
I initially wanted just hands-on experience working with an ancient art form.
I'd like to learn as much as I can. I didn't feel like a normal large high school was for me.
Life is much messier, and there's everything, there's so much that's sort of interconnected. And I think that the model of education where we're sort of isolating components isn't as effective as much more sort of integrated education.
And when I did go to that alternative school, I flourished.
If it's all abstractions, you forget it. So all of those people who have literally put their hands and feet on building the oven have learned and connected and will remember these things.
Fundamentally, the faculty, everybody's doing their own sort of thing. I'm gonna mash that all up.
Hands-on tactile learning is absolutely key to learning anything.
So one of the frameworks to think about these connections is the triple bottom line. So we have the social, the economic, and the environmental, and where those intersect, that's where you do get that sustainability. We are part of this natural world, and to be able to provide resources for ourselves now and for future generations is important and also a difficult concept.
Resources are scarce in this world, and I think it's important for everybody to remember.
Sustainability is harmonizing with nature and always giving back to it rather than always taking from it.